Hello, everyone. Welcome to the DLIS webinar Spring 2023 series. I'm Michael Crossfox, the Academic Support Assistant in the Division of Library and Information Science. And we're going to be hearing about assessment librarianship, and I think it's also electronic or data management from an alumna of our program. We're going to hear from Kate Angel, who's Associate Professor and Assessment and Data Management Librarian at the Leaf Library of Lehman College, which is part of the City University of New York. So thank you. Welcome, Professor Angel, for joining us today and describing what you've learned about your practice and describing also to us what that entails. And so I will stop sharing my screen and you can go ahead and start sharing yours so we can walk us through your presentation.
Great. Thank you for your introduction, Michael. And thank you also. I'm very happy to be here. I graduated from St. John's DLIS in 2009 and had a wonderful experience. And so I'm very happy to be able to share some of my professional experiences since my graduation with you all. So I'm just going to share my screen right now. Great. Okay, so I'm going to begin my presentation, which is titled An Introduction to Assessment Librarianship. As Michael said, I'm an assessment data management librarian at Lehman College. It's part of the CUNY system located in the Bronx, and I've been here since 2021. Before that, I worked at LIU Brooklyn as their coordinator of library instruction. I'm going to begin with a little bit of an overview of the position of assessment librarianship. In my research for this presentation, I learned that the positions in the libraries themselves were created somewhere between 2005 to 2007. So they're still relatively new positions within our field. Academic assessment in general really started to proliferate in American higher education in the early 2000s. There are many areas of the library that are assessed by librarians, and these include electronic resources, so journals, databases, technologies. I'm going to be talking about an assessment that I did on the library's public computers and networks last year as an example. We also evaluate reference and instruction, so a lot of our teaching, both within the classroom and individually at the reference desk, over chat and so on, excuse me, and library collections. Okay, there are many different titles that I found for this position. The standard title is typically assessment librarian. Mine, as you've seen, is assessment data management librarian. And others that I've seen, you'll see sometimes user experience librarian is common. Librarian for instructional design and assessment. Coordinator for assessment and continuous improvement was one that I saw. And then one that's really just focused on collections, and that's called the collection assessment and develop librarian. So there are many different titles that are used for a very similar position. Okay, so here are some professional duties of assessment librarians. I should mention also that assessment librarians primarily work in academic libraries. And some of the main roles of assessment librarians are to support their colleges in helping to evaluate effectiveness in meeting user needs and fulfilling stated goals. So that's a really an overarching main vision of my position at Lehman, as well as other assessment librarians. Another duty is to regularly engage in formal and informal communication of the library's successes. And this includes communicating with people within your own department. It involves communicating with faculty, your liaisons, different offices on campus. So I work closely a lot with our Office of Assessment. We also routinely produce, gather, and evaluate data, and that could be either quantitative or qualitative data. We also create communication channels to help disseminate information to internal and external stakeholders. And so, for example, in my position at Lehman, every year it is my responsibility to lead 2 major assessment projects. And that could be a number of different assessment projects that could relate to our services, it could relate to our collections, it could relate to our instruction. It's a very broad category. And so when I disseminate information, I do this because I write a large report, and then I submit this report at the end of every academic year. So I submit it in August to my dean. I share it with my colleagues as well. And then I share it with the head of assessment for the college, and he includes it in his reports, his general report on assessment for the college in its entirety. And so the next thing I'll talk about. Okay, so these are some skills that I would recommend for anyone who's interested in becoming an assessment library. And I'm aware that these are often very difficult. Some of the programs are a bit difficult to take all of them. But so, for example, it's really good if you can have some capability within Microsoft Excel. That can be really helpful for you with evaluating data, with statistics, data visualization. So I think, and that one is often, I think, the most accessible out of all of these different skill sets because it's readily available within any Word package. Excuse me. It's also really useful if you can familiarize yourself with some survey software. So for example, right now I'm working on an assessment project with another librarian in which we are creating a survey to give to faculty to have them evaluate an information literacy tool that faculty in this particular program give to their students. And so we're going to create a survey, we're going to distribute it to some faculty. So that's something pretty typical that assessment librarians will work on. So you could work on anything as simple as Google Forms. Honestly, I found that to be very useful within my work as an assessment librarian. I also find it really helpful in the classroom as well, because assessment librarians also typically provide regular reference and instruction functions too. So that's teaching information literacy classes, working the reference desk, working online chat, meeting students for reference consultations, and so on. Some survey software that are often used within higher education, one is Qualtrics, another is Question Pro. So if you have any access to using these, that could be something to learn a little bit about. Not every institution uses them, of course. It really depends where you work. It's also, I think, helpful to have a bit of knowledge about statistics. And depending on your graduate program, I'm not sure right now if a statistics program is offered at St. John's, but I do know that research methods are typically offered from what I remember. And you can also do something like you can take a free class through Coursera on statistics, or you could take one through Library Juice Academy, which is a really great online professional development, very affordable program that's available. So as far as quantitative statistical software goes, I also happen to major in psychology, and so I was able to learn a bit about SPSS, which is really helpful. Been helpful for me in my own research, but also it can be helpful for some assessment and data librarians to know on the job. And R is a statistical program too. I know people often use that too in computer programming. That's open source. So that one is special because it's free. So you don't need any type of license. So anyone who wishes to can install R and begin learning how to use it. You know, either by, let's say, for free. You could use YouTube videos. You could do one of those free college courses that I mentioned, like Coursera, for example. You can also look into qualitative statistical software. So I haven't used either of these myself. More of my own work has been in the more quantitative side, but I do know other librarians who have used NVivo. That's a very popular software for qualitative research. Atlas.ti is another one too. But once again, these are not, I wouldn't say any of these are necessary in my position as an assessment librarian, except Microsoft Excel is something I really use a lot. And knowing some of these skills, though, what they can do is they can help they can help strengthen your candidacy. And also it really depends where you work, and especially it depends also on how data heavy your position would be. But so for me at work, for example, we don't have access to Qualtrics, but I do design surveys if something like Question Pro is useful. Um, okay, I think that's good for that slide. Okay, so I've also assembled, excuse me, some professional development organizations that I think could be helpful for people who are interested in going into assessment librarianship. Sorry, one moment, please. The first is the Association of Research Libraries, also known as ARL. You can get involved in the statistics and assessment focus area. That's something that you could easily locate on their website. Another is ACRL, the Association of College and Research Libraries, which once again, these as a student, you're often able to get really good rates to join professional organizations like this. ACRL has different sections that you can join. There isn't one specifically titled assessment, but because assessment is used across departments of academic libraries, if you joined one like in the instruction section, for example, there will definitely be some assessment because assessment is really present in most areas of the library now. Another organization is UXPA, which is the User Experience Professionals Association. That's one that I have not been involved in myself, but it's one that I've seen mentioned when I was doing my preparations for this presentation. So that's one that could be really useful, I think, to look into. Additional professional development resources. Here are 3 conferences that I wanted to share with you, and I've been fortunate to attend all 3 of them at different points in my career. Excuse me. The premier conference for assessment librarians in the United States is really Library Assessment Conference, also known as LAC, and it's typically held every other fall. Before the COVID pandemic, it was always in a different location of the US. For the past couple times it's been held virtually. I've had the opportunity to present at this conference once when I was in Houston. I attended it most recently when it was virtually, and it's just an excellent conference for anyone who's interested at all in this part of librarianship. You will learn so much. And you could even, depending on what you're working on, any projects you've done in library school, please keep in mind it's never too early to start becoming involved in research scholarship. So I know when I was in library school, I presented a poster at a conference. So this is something that you could even consider submitting to if you feel like you have a relevant project or paper. Next is the Southeastern Library Assessment Conference. I went to this one in Atlanta once. This was also a very useful conference. And this one is usually held in opposite years of the Library Assessment Conference. So the last one I saw for this one was 2021. I imagine they'll have one in 2023. I'm not completely positive, but I suggest checking out their website if this is something that would interest you. And the last conference I went to when it was virtual in the COVID pandemic, and that's the International Conference on Performance Measurement in Libraries. And this is also held, from what I can tell, every other year. And its overarching goal is to teach attendees skills that help make the library meet stakeholder needs with the aim of driving improvement. So these are all going to be extremely helpful for anybody who's interested in potentially becoming an assessment librarian. But even if you don't necessarily know you want to become an assessment librarian, no matter what part of the library that you're working in, it is really helpful to know a bit about how to help improve your specific area that you work in. And that can be accomplished by attending a conference like Library Assessment Conference, for example. So using the example of a collections librarian, they could attend, even though their title is collections librarian and not assessment librarian, they could attend Library Assessment Conference and watch a lot of panel presentations and see posters by collections librarians who have worked on different assessment projects at their own libraries. I'm just going to talk a little bit about 2 projects that I've worked on at Lehman. The reason I'm talking about these two is I just want to give you a couple tangible examples of what an assessment librarian might do on the job. And so, like I'd mentioned earlier, um, I every year work on two major assessment projects. And I start in September, and then I complete the project, and then I write up a report, and then I submit the report that following August to my dean and then to the greater administration for college-wide assessment purposes. And these two projects are two that I worked on at Lehman this past academic year, which is my first full academic year at Lehman. The first project that I did was I led a privacy audit of the library's public computers and network. And I should say also that this is a deeply collaborative position, assessment librarian. It's very much you're constantly working with other librarians, administrators, even you can work sometimes with students, faculty in other departments. So this is a very collaborative position. It's something that I really like a lot because I'm very much a people person and I really like having the opportunity to learn more also about other people's responsibilities and they can learn from me. So for the privacy audit, I worked on that with the library's IT department. So I also worked on it with our head of circulation and then our technology librarian. Um, and so for this one, we did a privacy audit, which ALA defines as procedures to ensure that your organization's goals and promises of privacy and confidentiality are supported by its practices. And ALA's website has excellent guides and checklists for a number of different areas related to privacy in the library. And one is public computers and network. And so I worked with these colleagues. There were about 16 or 17 items on the checklist. And so item by item, we went through the different checklist items, and then we identified whether they needed work at our library to optimize privacy protections for patrons, or if they were already accomplished, or the other status was that something, if it just didn't relate to our library in general. So you can see here, for example, these are just four items on the checklist that I included in this presentation from the ALA checklist, and three we identified as we need to work on, and then one, the final one, is something that we've already accomplished. And the other project that I worked on was with another librarian, our head of reference. Excuse me, we ran an evaluation of student research topic development skills. Our objective here was to measure the ability of students to formulate research questions that are appropriately scaled, encourage critical inquiry, and ensure that these research questions can be supported by available information resources. In this project, we actually enacted in the information and literacy classroom with mostly first and second year undergraduates. And so because we were working with human participants, we applied to the Institutional Review Board, the campus IRB. We received permission to conduct the study, and then we created a lesson and also an assessment tool that we gave to students at the end of a session because we were trying to help determine their research question development skills. And this was an intervention that we were hopeful by completing, we would be able to evaluate our own teaching and have the ability to strengthen our own instructional practices based upon our results. Okay, and the final page is my references page. And at this time, I would be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. It's this is something that I've never worked. I've worked in academic libraries. I've never worked in assessment, and it is vital, right? So in public librarianship, we have our annual reporting that's mandated by the state, right? As using taxpayer money to run the operation. But in academic librarianship, so much of academia doesn't like to be quantified, right? And there's a lot of faculty that push back against any kind of quantification or any kind of like the student engagement surveys at the end of every class. There's some faculty that just feel that that's their methodology supersedes these, 5-star ratings. Um, and that's going back to our days in undergrad, right? Like that's it's not going anywhere, and neither is the lamentation about it. So that to see this emerge, especially, I think St. John's University Library got our first assessment, or a library faculty member became the assessment librarian probably 5 or 6 years ago. So it's still on trend and it's still developing. And so I can understand. I want to relate back to your point about using conferences to gain skills and to hear about the technologies and the methodologies involved, because it's a hard switch to flip. That we had at St. John's, we had a librarian who was, I think he was like early 20th century American history was his subject specialty. But he had a proficiency in technologies and he wanted to do some research, and he researched assessment. And then he said he went to the director or to the dean of libraries and said, I'm interested in doing an assessment regimen here at the library, and he's been doing that ever since. And it's but he had to go to conference. He had to engage with that kind of professional association to get the skills, because he's the first of his name. Right? No one else in the building had done this work. And if they had, it hadn't been scaled up. And that was a point of collaboration with the other library faculty. And the reason I bring this up is because I try to tell our students all the time that, uh, like you mentioned, they do get a tremendous discount on the membership dues for these professional associations. And a lot of these, like ACRL being a division of ALA, they'll even let you keep that student level of membership for 2 or 3 years after you graduate. And that's a window of 5 years where you have time to attend these conferences and to join the round tables and to get on the listservs and to hear from practitioners what's working. And you can do it at the national level and you can do it at the local state level also. So it's we have the opportunity. We're fortunate enough in St. John's College that as a student in St. John's College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, any of our MS/LIS students who get a paper or a poster or participate in a panel at a professional conference, the college will give you up to $500 to attend that conference. And once it's after the fact, every year, DLIS awards students who have been published, we award students a $1,000 scholarship. And we've had students do that it's every calendar year you're eligible, so only one per year. So we've had students in the program who get published at the end of their first year and then come back and at the end of their second year get published again. And we give them that scholarship and they get the $500 each year from the college. So if you're doing something at a local level or at a state level, reach out to the Library Resource Council near you. They're going to have an academic librarians roundtable or special interest group, and you can join them and start the conversation there. And they, like you said, they welcome student presentations, because especially one advantage for our program in that we are online, everything we do has a virtual element to it. And so this kind of survey, it would be online, but maybe you want to interview a participant afterwards, or maybe you want to present your findings. You already have the skill sets in that you're remote in a graduate program. So thank you, Dr. Angel. I think the information you provided is food for thought. And we will, I'm sorry, I called you Dr. Angel, like our Christine Angel.
Oh, that's okay. Yes, no doctorate, but
But we will let you know as we move forward for other opportunities. I'm sure as you pick up more skills and maybe you scale up more projects and you want to share them with a broader audience, you're always welcome back. It's always a pleasure to have you here. For those who are currently in the program, you don't know this, but Professor Angel here gave a presentation. We started a lecture series, the Brother Corey lecture series, and Professor Angel was one of our first speakers. That series has since evolved into a fellowship, which is another funding opportunity for our students in the name of Father Corey, who was a previous director of DLIS. And that focuses on social justice in the librarianship, in the library professions. So there's more information about that on our blog, as always. So Kate, thank you so much. It was great to see you. I wish you luck and enjoy the rest of your spring semester.
Thank you so much, Michael. It was a pleasure to be here.
My pleasure.